Welcome everybody, my name is Trexhibit and thank you so much for tuning in today. Today we're going to be talking about another way that you can instantly increase your KD in Call of Duty. Call of Duty in general, not just Infinite Warfare, but any Call of Duty. And the topic for today is going to be map awareness, okay? I know you guys might have heard that before, but we're going to talk about map awareness. It is the most important part in Call of Duty, okay? So map awareness is just your ability to know what's going on, know where the enemies are spawning, know how many enemies are near you, basically just know what's going on the map, where your teammates are, who's dying where, and basically how people are playing at the time. This is so important. I can't stress this enough how important this is, because I was a mid 1 KD player for a while and my gun skills were decent. I had pretty good accuracy, pretty good reaction time, and for some reason I couldn't figure out why, but even though I'd win most head-on gunfights, basically like face-to-face, one-on-one, I usually won those, but for some reason I still, I got shot in the back a lot. Just different things would happen, and I'd find myself caught in like 3v1 situations, or I'd kill a guy and I get shot, and I'm just like, why? Why can't I? How do guys get 2 and 3 KDs, and how does this happen? What am I doing wrong? I couldn't figure it out for a while, and I had to really do a lot of research to figure out what the problem was. I felt like I was doing most things right. I just didn't understand, why. I was like, do I have to camp? What is it? So I'm here to answer that question for you guys. If any of you guys are wondering, if you're having the same issues as I was having, getting shot in the back is one big thing. If you're getting shot in the back, today we're going to talk about why you're getting shot in the back and how to fix that, okay? So my KD, if you're wondering, it's right now I think it's about a 2.32. I haven't played in a couple days, but I'll go ahead and put a picture up on the screen now for you so you can see how my KD looks at the moment. I think it's 2.32, so I'm not looking at it right now. I just know I have the picture somewhere, so I'll put that on the screen. And the reason I have that is, the biggest reason is going to be map awareness. So we're going to get into that right now, okay? So let me tell you the most important thing. We can also look in my settings too. I'll pull that up on the screen as well. It's gonna be, let me tell you guys, sound, okay? Sound is so important in this game. Sound is almost as important as you being able to see. Without sound and the correct settings, it's almost like pointless, because with the sound you can hear enemies approaching, you hear guns, that's how you get, those turn-ons, that's how you know exactly what's going on. So make sure you are wearing headphones. If you have any headphones, just put them on, make sure you're listening to that. I turned my like music off, completely off, and I just listen to the in-game sounds. So I'll have my settings here on the screen for you guys if you're wondering. Okay, so I have a scuff control, so my controls may be just a little bit different than yours. Stick layout is default. Button layout, I have tactical flipped. Okay, so when I didn't have a scuff, so if you don't have a scuff, what I used to use was actually bumper jumper tactical flip. So you want to make sure that you shoot with L1 and R1. So the reason for that is L2, right? L2 and R2, they're gonna take longer to push down than L1 and R1. As you can see, the trigger in the back has more room, so that means it takes a little bit longer to pull the trigger. So you want to flip that to make it as quick as possible to shoot down, shoot your weapon and start firing. So those are settings you use if you don't have a scuff. If you do have a scuff, I went with tactical flipped. So then look inversion is disabled, flight inversion is disabled, sprint cancels reload is disabled. I don't like the setting, to be honest. I tried it on, I just don't like it. Vibration, I have it disabled. The reason why you want to have vibration disabled is because while you're firing, if your hands are shaking, think about this. If you're firing and your hands are shaking, which is what vibration does, it throws off your accuracy a little bit. I didn't learn that for a while, but I learned that eventually, and it does help a lot. So go ahead and you do want to turn that off, okay? So my sensitivity is 6 and 6, 6 horizontal, 6 vertical, and I used to play with it crazy high. In Black Ops 1, it was actually like, wow, this goes up to 20, but in Black Ops 1, I believe it was a 14. I used to use it as high as possible because I thought, I always had this idea like, oh, I can turn on people, let me make make it as fast as possible so I can turn faster than everyone else and I'll have the advantage. That's true in a sense, yes, you can turn faster, but the problem is, when you're trying to aim precisely, you need to make those small adjustments to your accuracy. The faster it is, the less precise you can actually be. So you do want to turn that down as low as possible. I've tried, low. I've tried 4. I heard pros using like 3 and 4. it's a little bit different. So you don't want to always copy the pros like exactly, because in a pro game it's going to be a little bit different than public matches, because they're, you know, playing as a team, they're, you know, running specific routes, they know how the, you know, how the game's going to go. There's not too many surprises in pro games like there is in multiplayer, you know, where some of your team might not know what they're doing. So I don't use it as low as like, you know, 3 or 4. I use 6 because with multiplayer, I think you do need to be a little bit faster with the accuracy, and most of it's going to be like designed for moving a lot faster, but at the same time you don't want to have it too fast. So I found 6 to be the best because you can still turn on people, but it's still not so fast where you cannot make minor adjustments to your accuracy. So it's low enough to see that you can make those nice, precise, you know, changes to your accuracy while you're firing and keep your accuracy as high as possible, but it's also not too slow where you can't even turn around if you're getting shot in the back. So safe area, that just depends on your TV. Audio options, okay, audio options, super important. Let's go ahead and take a look here. Now in Black Ops 3, they used to have a setting called Super Crunch. That was perfect, okay? Super Crunch would make it where you'd be able to hear footsteps and, you know, things like footsteps, gun reloads, things like that. You'd hear that louder. So those are really, really key sounds that you want to listen for if you want to succeed, you know, and use audio to your advantage. So like I said, I have my music turned off, effects are all the way up, and in Infinite Warfare they've just got, you know, presets here. I use headphones because, you know, I wear headphones, or a headset rather. I wear a headset, so you just, you know, it's kind of basic, I guess. They don't really have as many presets as they did in Black Ops 3. So I've got that on headphones mode, and I don't know if it works if it's coming from your TV. I haven't tried it like that. I just use it with my headphones. So basically, you know, if you're listening for sounds, you're going to want to use headphone mode, and you're going to want to wear headphones anyway if you're playing multiplayer. So, you know, I just recommend whatever headphones you can, just wear those, and you're good to go on the audio then. So language selection, that doesn't matter. Brightness. Now, I used to use it where it was extra bright, you know, just because it's better for seeing people in the dark. But the thing is, in Infinite Warfare, it's kind of bright. Like, I found out that it's actually too bright when you have this setting, like, you know, higher. Because I used to use it where, like, basically, like where it says, you know, the not visible would be visible. But I found out that that's not that good in Infinite Warfare because it's too bright in some areas. So you want to keep that where not visible is not visible, like it says. If you used it any higher, you probably shouldn't do that in Infinite Warfare. It's a little bit too bright. So film grain, you want to turn that all the way off. Okay, film grain is basically that fuzziness that you're going to see on your screen, and that is by default is on in Infinite Warfare. You want to turn that off, make things nice and clear. And then motion blur, you want to turn that off as well, because it was making things like, you don't want motion blur at all in Call of Duty. So you want to turn that off. Target assist, I do use that enabled, and I do turn it off for accuracy practice, and I'll actually get into that in another video for you guys. So if you're interested in that, you may want to check my channel. It might be up already. So that's it for the settings. Now back to map awareness. Okay, so now that we covered audio, it's really, really important to know where people spawn. So you do want to learn the spawn points as soon as possible. Okay, things like spawn points and all the head glitch spots. You want to know where all the head glitch spots are. Okay, those are super important. Know where they are and know how to counter them. And I am planning on making strategy guides for each and every map in the game. Another huge thing that's going to help you out when it comes to map awareness is listening for enemy callouts and friendly callouts as well. These sometimes get overlooked, but they're super important. So, you know, the game has the announcer where he'll tell you enemy UAV, friendly UAV. Those are super important. Okay, so like anytime you hear something, you know, you could hear a call out for, let's say, the Scorchers, you know, that's your time, you know, to run inside, you know. But if you're not listening to that, you're probably going to get blown up. So listen for that. Listen for any call out for any kill streak. That's super important because you can change the way you're playing. You know, if you hear them say enemy hater, you know, then you know you're on the map. They can see you. So you're going to have to play a little bit more. You know, you want to play a little bit more defensive. All these things help out a lot. And then what's also super important is player call outs. So these also get overlooked a lot, and these are the times when you hear somebody yelling grenade, you know, stuff like that. Super important. You hear a guy next to you, if he yells grenade, you're like, oh, there's a grenade coming, let me get away. Oh, and another thing that you want to pay attention to is who has what combat rig, who's using what, because when they use their special ability, you might have to play a little bit different to counter that. So do pay attention to that as well. It's super important. It'll help you out a ton. I promise you it will. I made so many mistakes not paying attention to stuff, and I want to help you guys avoid making the same mistakes that I've made. You also want to pay attention to how the enemy team is playing and how your team is playing. You can't play the exact same way no matter what. If the other team's playing kind of slow or campy like, you have to change your playstyle up. If you're one of the people who just rushes out into the open, just rush, it's not going to work. If their whole team is sitting there waiting by doors, waiting in corners, it's not going to work. You're going to have to change your playstyle. If your team is kind of playing like, kind of campy and just waiting for the enemies to come by, you're not going to be able to rush like you would, let's say, if your whole team was rushing with you, because when you're by yourself, all you're going to run into is enemies. You're going to be outnumbered. So you do want to also pay attention to how everyone else is playing and how the map is flowing, how the game is flowing, the speed of things, and what kind of weapons people are using, because that's going to affect the things as well. If there's a sniper on the enemy team, hey, I probably can't just run across here because I'm going to get sniped, So those kind of things you need to pay attention to because they're going to help you out a ton. Another thing that's going to really help you out in the game is paying attention to specific players and how they're playing. So if any players in the game stand out to you, if there's just one guy with a melee weapon, he's running around, he's waiting behind corners, and he's knifing you every 2 seconds, pay attention to that. Change the way you play. Don't continue to run around corners and not look. If there's that kind of guy, make sure when you do enter a room, you're doing something specific, maybe sliding in and checking the corners, or, doing something just so that person cannot kill you anymore. If there's that one guy with the SMG and he's really good and he's melting you every 2 seconds, play a little bit different. Maybe don't, play how you were playing every time he kills you. If he kills you and you're just kind of like, if he's shooting in the back a lot, that means you need to pay attention to the flank routes. That means he's flanking the whole time. If he's rushing in and he's flying over, walls and stuff like that, and he's just melting you, then play accordingly to counter the way that they're playing. That's something else that you really should pay attention to, because it helps out a lot and makes it so that the other person can't ruin the game for you, and also get, you want to stop him from getting kill streaks, because if he goes crazy and he gets all these kill streaks, then hey, what's going to happen? You're not going to have a good game. So that's another thing that you do want to pay attention to, and it's going to really help out your KD as well. So another super important thing in Infinite Warfare, well, Call of Duty in general, another super important thing in Call of Duty is to look at your minimap. Your minimap is your best friend, okay? And you want to try to make a general rule of thumb. You're going to want to look at your minimap every 3 seconds. Now, it's just a general rule. That's not in all situations. That's not all cases. There's cases where you may not look at it for 3 seconds, or you may look at it even more often than that. But you want to try to keep in mind every 3 seconds you want to go ahead and glance up at the minimap, because that's gonna be the time when you're gonna see that guy who's shooting, behind you, or who's taking your teammates out across, behind that wall over there. That's when you're gonna find those things out, and that is so important to look at your minimap. It might be annoying at first, it's hard to get used to it, but just try and, you don't stare at it, just glance up at it. Try and glance up at it every 3 seconds. It's gonna help you guys out so much. Try and do that. Also, really important thing, you want to listen out for gunshots, okay? When you hear gunshots, just don't just say, oh, it's in the background. Don't get used to just hearing gunshots and not reacting. You're gonna, every time you hear gunshots and you're not aware who it is, like you should always when you hear gunshots, look at the minimap, especially if you hear them close by. Look at the minimap, okay? Look at your teammates. If you don't see any red dots, look at your teammates and see if you see a little arrow above their little player icon there. If you do not see an arrow, which is going to be the indicator that they're shooting, it's an enemy. Okay, so that's going to be a really good way to know that there's an enemy. And then, depending on what headset you're using, you can find out where they are by listening for where the sound is coming from. Another sound that you want to really get used to hearing is suppressed weapons. Okay, so suppressors are really helpful in Infinite Warfare. You can flank a team and you just take in them out. Let's say there's a group of 3 guys, and you can stand there literally behind the guy, take one out, reload, take the other guy out, whatever you do, and none of them turn around. Suppressors are great, but you need to be the guy that does turn around. So when you hear the little sound, that tick, 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 little suppressor, you guys know what it sounds like. You want to look at your map right away, okay? Look at your map, see if any of your teammates' dots are disappearing, because if their dots are disappearing, they're dying, and that means there's a guy with a suppressor flanking your team. Anytime I hear a suppressor firing, I usually look at my map right away, and then if I don't see anybody on my team, once again, we're going to look at our teammates' dots here. If I don't see anybody on my team firing, that's when I turn around immediately. Turn around, make sure the guy's not behind me. I really pay attention to my surroundings there, because I know that there's an enemy player with a suppressor nearby. So once you guys get used to that, it's gonna really help you out. Like these things here with map awareness, this is how you get really good at the game. This is how you're gonna get the 2KD, the 3KD, you know, even higher than that. It's so important, map awareness. I had no idea how important it was because I used to be the guy who would just run around. I was quite good at Black Ops 1. I had a 4.6 KD in that game, and it was a little bit different, you know, but now it's even more important than ever, map awareness. And just knowing where these people are, knowing what's going on around you at all times is going to stop you from dying, you know, for no reason. You know, basically all those times when you're like, why the heck am I dying, you know, and you're just getting frustrated, map awareness is your best friend. And there's so much more for me to talk to you guys about. Obviously I can't do it all in this video, so there are going to be all these videos on my channel, so do check that out. You know, right now I only have one video on my channel, but do check it out because I'll be uploading, you know, as often as possible. So strong chances that most of those videos are probably on my channel already right now, so do go check that out. And hopefully this helps you guys out. You know, I love to teach people. I love, you know, telling you guys what I've learned so far. I've been playing Call of Duty for a long time, you know, and you know, I think like 6 years now, maybe longer, and I learned a lot, you know, and I want to help you guys out because I see a lot of people with, you know, less than 1 KD, and there's no reason for you to have less than 1 KD. There's so many tricks that you can use, you know, to get better and stop dying as much, you know, have more fun playing the game, and I'm here to share that with you guys. So if you do have any questions or comments regarding the video, if I left anything out, please do comment below. You know, I accept criticism. It helps me grow, helps me get better, and I appreciate it, you know, help me get better and stop making the mistakes that I'm making. So thank you guys so much for watching, and if you did like the video, please do leave a like, and if you haven't already, please do subscribe to join Trex Nation, the #1 family on YouTube. I'll see you guys all in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Okay, no, yes, okay, I didn't screw it up. 175, I'm so close. Can we do this? Please. Oh wow, he annihilated that guy. Oh, look at him in there. No. There's no teammates around me. No.